Hi class, today we're going to be doing some basic fraction review and learning how to model multiplication of fractions. I'm in our binder on page 2 in our fractions notes, and this is lesson 4-1. So at the top of this page we're just talking about reviewing simplifying fractions. This is something that we need to do in our fraction decimal percent unit, so this isn't really something that's new. Remember, the first rule that we ask ourselves, are the numbers even? Because if the numbers are even, we can simplify by 2. Do they end in 5 or 0? If they end in 5 or 0, I can simplify by 5. Then we have to, if neither of those two work, we need to try the nasty 3. Because the 3's, if I can simplify them, are kind of hard to see sometimes. And then in this case with this unit, we're actually going to try the numerator if nothing else works. So let's look at the first one. 4 and 6. First question we ask ourselves, are they even? Well, yes, 4 and 6 are even. I can count 2, 4, 6. So they are even, and that means I can divide top and bottom by 2 to make the fraction smaller. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now always ask yourself again, can I simplify that fraction? In this case, they are both not even. They both don't end in 5 or 0 to divide by 5. I can't divide 2 by 3, and same thing again, I cannot do 2 divided by 3, so this is done here. If we look at number 2, can we simplify the fraction? Well, ask ourselves, are the numbers even to be able to divide by 2? Well, 18 is even, but 21 is not an even number. It ends in that 1, and 1 is not even. Does it end in 5 or 0, so I can divide by 5? Well, no, neither of them end in 5 or 0. And then I need to try the nasty number 3. Well, does 18 and 21 both divide by 3? If you try it and you think about your facts or you use your calculator, you can see that both numbers do divide by 3. So I can divide those by 3. 18 divided by 3 gives you 6. 21 divided by 3 gives you 7. Ask yourself again, can I simplify? Are they even? No. Do they end in 5 or 0? No. Do they both divide by 3? No. And does 6 divide by 7? No. If you're using a calculator, you can see that it won't divide whenever you get a decimal. The only way a number can divide evenly is if there's a whole number that you get out of your calculator. Let's skip ahead and let's do number 4 together. Number 4 has a whole number in front, so we need to make sure that we don't lose that, but we need to still ask ourselves, can we simplify the fraction? So we're going to use the same rules. Are they even? No. Do they end in 5 or 0? Both numbers don't, only the 15 does, so no. Try 3. So does 3 divide by 3? Yes. Does 15 divide by 3? Yes. So I can divide top and bottom, the numerator and the denominator, by 3. Now don't forget, you have that whole number, so the whole number needs to go up front, and then I have the extra. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. Now because there's a 1 on top, I know that my answer is finished and I am done. So go ahead and pause the video. You can do the ones that remain on that page. And then here are the answers so that you can check your work. Looking at the bottom of that page, let's talk about how we convert an improper fraction back into a mixed number. And let's look over here at this example. So it says step 1, and we're using our calculator, so it says divide 22 divided by 4. Now, if you're not using a calculator, you can think, how many times does 4 evenly go into 22 without going over 22? Well, if we use our calculator, we get out the decimal 5.5 from our calculator, or you can think in your head, 4 times 5 gets me to 20, so that's as close as I can get to 22 without going over. So the whole number of the decimal in step 2, it says the whole number of the decimal stays the whole number of the fraction. So the whole number in this case is a 5. So we're going to keep the 5. But because we had some decimal pieces left over and 4 didn't go exactly into 22 with 5, we have some left over. We keep the denominator of the fraction. So the denominator of the fraction was 4. And in step 3, it says do the magic C to find the missing numerator. So the magic C is what we do to turn numbers improper, but we can use it to help us in this case. So remember, we multiply on the bottom and add on the top. So we have 4 times 5 equals 20. Now I'm looking for a numerator of 22. So I'm going to do 22 minus 20 to figure out what do I need to add to this to go in the numerator. 22 minus 20 gives me 2. So that means in my numerator I need to add a 2. Now the last question I need to ask myself is, does the fraction simplify? So I have 5 and 2/4. Are they even? Yes. So therefore I can divide numerator and denominator by 2. I'm left with 5, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And I cannot simplify anymore because I have that 1 on top. Okay, let's do number 10 together. If we divide number 10, 15 divided by 3 in our calculator, we actually get out a whole number of 5. Or you can think in your head, 3 times 5 gives me 15, so I'm just going to have a whole number answer. In that case, there is no extra to be a fraction. So let's look at number 11 together. I know it says your turn, but let's look at it together. How many times does 5 evenly go into 12 without going over? Or you can use your calculator. You can do 12 divided by 5. If you do 12 divided by 5, you get a whole number of 2 with some leftovers because you have a point with extra left over. So our denominator stays, so the denominator is 5. 5 times 2, if we do the magic C, is 10. How many more do I need to get to 12? I need 2 more. And it does not simplify because it's not even. I can't divide, it doesn't both end in 5 and 0. And I can't divide by 3, and then 2 doesn't work. So go ahead, pause the video, try the ones on the bottom, make sure that you try to simplify if you can. Okay, there are your answers. Go ahead, check your work. Be careful with number 17. Number 17 was the only one that you could simplify down. Looking at the next page, we're talking about modeling fraction multiplication. So it can get kind of tricky if you aren't careful. So we always start by cutting into rows and into columns. So in this case, 1/3 is first. So we're going to cut it into 3 rows. And the fraction is 1/3. So we're going to shade 1 row of that problem, or of that picture. And I'm going to shade it blue. Alright, so I have 1/3. Now I need to draw 1/2 by cutting into columns because we're going to need to overlay these. So I'm going to cut this in half with 2 columns. Remember, columns stand up and down, rows, row, row, row my boat right across my page. So columns stand up and down, and I'm going to color that one yellow, and there's 1/2, so I'm going to color 1 column yellow. Alright. Now the step 3 says to overlay the 2 pictures. So I'm going to draw the first picture, which was my 1/3 first. Color blue. Okay, so there's my 1/3. And then I'm going to redraw my picture, my half. Alright. just so you can see this, I'm going to color this one green. Alright, so it says, where does the answer come from? It says how many squares were covered twice, or how many squares were it overlapping, and it actually turned green. So there's one overlap, which was green. And how many total squares were there? Well, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total squares. So 1 out of 6 was overlapped. Therefore, that would be our answer. Now, if we look down below, we have another type of modeling, which includes a number line. So it says Jasmine walks 3 days a week, 2.5 miles each day. How many miles does she walk in a week? Our key words here are 3 days a week and 2.5 miles each day. So our directions say start at 0, making a mark every 2.5 spaces until you've made 3 marks. Now, because our fraction is a half, I'm going to put a mark at each half spot on my number line. Okay, and I'm going 2.5 3 times. So I'm going to start at 0 and I'm going to count 2.5. 1, 2.5, and I'm going to draw a mark straight up. So this here is 1 mark. Now, because I'm at the half spot, I'm going to count backwards. So instead of saying 2.5, I'm going to say 1/2 and then 2. So it gets me back to that whole number, and I'm back at the 5. So this is my second mark. And then I need to do it one more time. So I'm at a hole, so I'm going to count my holes first. 1, 2.5. And that puts me at my third spot. So right here is my answer. And my answer is going to be 7 1/2. Okay, if you need to, watch this video again. Now you can try the, on page 4, you can try the 2 models at the top and the 2 number lines at the bottom. Now try number 4 first before you try number 3, because number 3 you have to break it into thirds and you need to make sure that you're careful with your jumps. So go ahead, you can try those, and you can check them on the key that's posted on the